Take back your soul. This is another transmission from Mahadeva here at ThunderWizard.com headquarters, where you find the world's only unified spiritual energy system at ThunderWizard.com. Get ready, because here I come. Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. Welcome back to the, whatever this is, podcast, whatever. And so, the question we are going to look at today, two questions, is what is the fifth element of the human race? According to the Hopi prophecy, which I firmly believe in. By the way, I'm not Hopi. I've not been trained by any Hopi people, so whatever I say about this is just simply my observations based on information available to any of us out there. And in the previous video, I left a link. I should probably get that link and give it to you as well. But the question I'm going to ask today is, what is the fifth race of people? So according to the Hopi mythology, that in the beginning of the migration of human beings across the planet, we were all one people, and there were 4 clans, and each one of the clans was associated with one of the 4 elements. And as you know, there isn't 4 elements, there's 5 elements. But there were 4 elements, which were fire, air, water, and earth. And according to the mythology, the Great Spirit, whatever that means, gathered together the 4 clans and sent them off into different directions so that they could learn their element. So the fire people went north and they went to master the element of fire. The water element people went west and they went to master the water element. The earth people went south to master earth, and the air people went east to master air. And air was associated with breathing and taking in life force energy through breath into the body. They went off to master that. And they were the yellow people. So that's fairly obvious. That's talking about East Asia, because that's where we get our teachings about Qigong and energy associated with breath and life force energy. The fire people were the white people, and they went north to master fire. And of course, if you want to go someplace where you have to master fire, you got to go someplace cold, because without fire, you're going to freeze to death. So they went off to the north to study and master the fire element. And the water people were the black people, and they went west to master water. And water was about being able to find common ground, because that's what water does. Water penetrates through everything and finds a common ground everywhere. It unites everything. And then earth, those were the brown people. Those were the Native Americans, and they learned about earth medicine and all the things associated with that. So those are the 4 clans. And I've shared this in my books. I've shared it on videos, but you may be thinking, well, all those directions don't make any sense. But in actuality, they do. When you know, actually, from archaeology, where the people went. Sorry, I'm trying to do 2 things at once, so I usually can't talk and do two things at once. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the link. There it is. For the video that I want to give you the link to,
Freedom
which
is a fragile thing.
I didn't ask you to talk, Ronald Reagan. All right, so I'm going to put that link in here where we are. All right, so this is the link to the Hopi prophecy, and there's a lot of very interesting stuff in there which we are going to uncover. But the first question we are going to ask is, how come there's only 4 elements? You know, as much respect as I have for that Hopi prophecy, which I do, where's that 5th element? And just to let you know that the directions that they talk about are actually what took place. First, we have to understand that this prophecy would have taken place at least 75,000 years ago. And it would have been where the small remnant of modern humans who had survived, because as I said last time, human beings almost went extinct before they became the dominant species of the planet. And they were the only place that you found modern human beings were in southeastern Africa. And then there was a climate shift. And this climate shift opened everything up. The Sahara Desert became grassland for a while, which of course all the animals went up there. So the people went up there following them. And that's when they split off into a bunch of different directions. So the water people went west. And as it turns out, according to my Yoruba teacher, my Yoruba shamanic drum teacher, Baba Ayo, he says that the Yoruba people, and if you know anything about the Yoruba people, they now are, you know, Nigeria is their homeland, and that is in West Africa, equatorial West Africa. But he says that they came from Egypt, that the original Yoruba people migrated from Egypt. So as human beings are moving north following the animals, they go across the Sahara, they end up in Egypt. And he says they came from there. So the Africans, the black people, the water people went west, West Africa. The fire people is pretty obvious. We kept going north. We went up into Europe and kept going up, and we spent 40,000 years. Was it that? 40,000 years? 40,000 years in an ice age. So as a result of living in, having to take shelter all the time and having to cover up our skin to keep ourselves warm, we ended up losing the need for all of the skin pigment. We needed to lose all of that, because if you only got this much of your face, the majority of the time, you're going to have to get all of your vitamin D from this, which means you better not have any pigment or you won't survive. And we also picked that up from Neanderthals. Neanderthals had DNA for light-colored skin. They were in Ice Age for 200,000 years. So that's where we got that. So that's why the white race in the north and fire. So we did water and fire. Earth went south. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Because if all human beings came from Southeast Africa, you can't go south. Doesn't work. But modern humans, except for those that stayed in Africa, crossed over up into Europe and then up into Eurasia and Asia. And the people who ended up becoming Native Americans kept on going. They kept on going west over the land bridge into Alaska, and then the only place to go from there is south. So when the first people who got onto the American continent during that time, very long time ago, there was only one place for them to go. So that's why south is associated with Native Americans, because that's the only way they could have gone. And so they did. They all went south, all the way down to the tip of South America. And who do we got left? We got, is that everybody? East, north, south, west. So there's a missing element. And so this has always bothered me because I'm a syncretist, which means, to let you know, my assumption, as you know, everything has an assumption. And I don't like it when things don't make sense. I'm a practical person, so if things don't make sense, I have to get rid of it. As much as I may be emotionally attached to it, I have to get rid of it. So it hasn't made any sense to me. There was something missing about this this understanding of, what is going on with, there's only 4 clans, there's only 4 elements, there's only 4 races on Earth. But there is a hint in the Hopi mythology that there is actually a 5th element and a 5th race of people. Now, this opens up a whole other can of worms, which I'm not even prepared to look at, which, you'll probably ask those same questions, but I'm not even going to begin looking at that. But there is a hint about this 5th element and a 5th race of people. Because according to the Hopi mythology, they predict these 3 shakings of the earth because, as they say that that the Great Spirit sent everybody off into 4 directions to master their element. And then at the appointed time, they would all come back together. And in that link, he describes very well why it is that it was Europeans who ended up really doing all of the exploring across the globe, and why it was the Europeans that did the majority of the colonizing of different places, which did unify. It was the Europeans that have unified the world. Not in any peaceful way, just in terms of, the fact that they went everywhere and economy and all of that, et cetera, et cetera. We're all one globe, and that is due to the European colonization and their journeying around the world, exploring things. And he explains very well why that is, and I'll let you watch that to let him explain it. But they talk about that when all of the 4 clans come together, if they come together in peace and they form a circle, meaning they all come together in peace, then it will create a new, a new heaven on earth, and we will all evolve, and it will be wonderful. But that prophecy then goes on to say, but if he doesn't, if the European does not show up with the sign of a circle, with a cross inside of the circle, then you have to run, because he's going to bring plague and pestilence and war. And it is very true. One of the symbols of my ethnic ancestors, the Norse, the pre-Christian, because that's where things really got bad, is when Christianity came about. The pre-Christian Norse, one of their symbols is called Odin's Eye, which is a cross within a circle. But that isn't who showed up. Who showed up were the Spaniards, who also are descended from Norse. I don't know if you knew that or not, but majority of Spaniards are descended from Norse people. And they didn't bring the cross within the circle. They brought the cross with no circle. And so that started the problems that we've been experiencing for the past 2,000 years. And as a result of that, according to their mythology, the Great Spirit, in order to get our attention, has to shake the earth. And so the first shaking of the earth was the First World War. The second shaking of the earth was the Second World War. And then there's, and after each shaking, people have an opportunity to come together and make a circle again. To come together and share technology Which, by the way, even though what I'm going to share with you, the vast majority of the technology that we have that you and I are completely unaware of, which goes far beyond anything that you've seen in Star Wars or Star Trek. According to the those that know, I went surfing today. I was in the sun a lot, so I'm kind of tired and loopy. But Skunk Works and people who work in the technology industry, the contractors for the government, have said very openly that we have accomplished everything that you see in Star Wars and Star Trek, and even beyond, way beyond that. So it is still the case that the Fire Clan, and the Fire Clan is ruling the earth through the elites who are running this world, that the Fire Clan has still technology that they haven't shared. And that technology that we already have, not we, you and I, we don't have it, but the Dark Force elites who are running the world, they do have it. They have 0-point energy, they have anti-grav propulsion, they have the ability to clean up the air, to reverse climate change, global warming. They have the knowledge to do that. The reason why they don't give that out is because they're making too much money, keeping you a slave to petroleum, to coal, to big tech, big pharma, big media, politics, the bank system, stock market. They keep that false thing going. They know it's ridiculous. They know it means nothing. They know that the technology that you use to drive your car with is at least 100 years out of date, that you have the ability to power your home for free, you have the ability to get all of your needs met. You have that ability if they were to share with us the technology that they've discovered. But they don't. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. But because of that, because of what they have been doing, and they've been doing it for thousands of years, they also have uncovered part of the solution to the problem, which is that true advanced technology is powered by meditative power. Your powers of meditation combined with other aspects of technology is what creates the ultimate technology. So spirituality, they know this, but they're not spiritual people. And because they're not spiritual people, because they are narcissists, you want to call them reptilians, go right ahead, because they operate from the reptilian brainstem. They are fight or flight, greed, fear, power, control. They are sociopaths. They do not have empathy. They're completely wrapped up in themselves. So if they were to truly unlock the powers of meditation, they would have to face their own pain, and they would have to heal and understand that true evolution involves unity, peace, love, acceptance, unconditional love, all of the things that spirituality, true spirituality, has been teaching, and they've been making it very challenging. That's why they created monotheism. They created specifically Christianity, the other two monotheist religions as well, but Christianity is the gem, is the diamond of it, because it is a religion of codependence and psychopathy. It's guilt, control, and shame. Shame is what drives it. And without shame, you cannot be controlled. Without fear, without guilt, without self-hatred, without hatred of others, which is just a projection of your own self-hatred, without any of that, they can't control you. So as long as they can keep you in that state of isolation and fear, then they can not only control you, they can also feed off of you. And the way that they feed off of you has been, up until now, has been through money. And, as I said, the petroleum industry is the most powerful, trillions of dollars. But then, of course, we've got big pharma, we've got big tech, we've got mainstream media, we've got all the other stuff that we could point out. Those are all other tools through which you pay. Your whole life is slavery. You are a slave to the banking system. You are a slave to, I deal with people on a, however often I deal with people, my clients. And, this is the first thing that I teach is that in order to truly be happy in life, the first thing you have to do is not be a slave to this whole money scenario. So, as you know, I do whatever the hell I want. And my mantra is make money doing what you would do anyway. And I mean that absolutely literally. I don't mean make money doing something you can tolerate. I've never said that and I never will, because that's slavery. When you have to get up, I don't have an alarm. I haven't had an alarm in 20 years. Nothing has woken me up. Nobody pays my bills. I decide what my schedule is, and I get paid for doing things I would do anyway. And if somebody wants something from me that I enjoy doing, they have to pay me for that. So I don't work for anybody. I completely work for myself. And I do whatever the hell I want. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that's what you should be doing. Everybody should do that. And the way that you do that is not being a slave. The way that you do that is by listening to your soul. Your soul will tell you, if you're the slightest bit aware of what your soul is telling you, your soul will tell you exactly what you're supposed to do. And the way you know that, it won't be through guilt or fear or feelings of obligation, the normal ways that society gets you to do something. The way that you know it is that when you think about it, you will be filled with joy. Now, that may not last for long. You may wake up the next day and go, what the hell was I thinking? I can't make a living petting rabbits all day, because that's all I want to do is I just want to have rabbits and pet them. And that's what makes me happy. But the truth is that nowadays you can't. I mean, there are people who, they make money simply by showing videos of their pets. I mean, and I watch them because I don't have any pets. And I like dogs and I like cats. And I go, oh, that's a cute kitty. And I will watch some person petting their cat for 5 minutes, and they'll have millions of views. So you can make money, if that was your thing, petting rabbits all day. You could do it. And you'd be able to make a living. If that's what your soul told you to do, you could do it. So we don't live in that world. We live in a world where you are told to carry your cross, which means you have to go through life as a victim, not doing what you want, trudging through life, not complaining about how horrible it is and what a slave you are. You have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and work 8 hours and then come home and then be so tired and upset that in order to get through it, you have to then turn on your television to numb you out, and then you have to get your alcohol, or nowadays, people have, you can go and get other kinds of stuff that I couldn't get, which would have put you in prison. So you can now go get it from the dispensary. You can go get your THC fix or whatever it is. And you numb yourself out for 3 or 4 hours until you fall asleep in front of your computer or your TV, and you go to bed and you wake up and you do it again the next day. And then you are filled with the delusion that has been created for you, which is, if I just had a lot of money, if I just won the lottery, then I would be happy. And then you see people like Michael Jackson, who had all the money and all of the fame, all of the respect, all of the love in the world, and he ended up, killing himself on the most addictive drug possible. Money is not what does it. This is the result of this current dark force which is running the world, telling you that you still live in a dark age where you have to drive cars with petroleum and you have to, burn coal for your electricity. So that's the Fire Clan for you, still running the earth, completely walked away from our true understanding. So according to the Hopis, the Great Spirit won't tolerate this, and so he shakes the earth once, shakes the earth twice, and we've been through those, which is World War I and World War II. And then there's a third shaking. If we don't get it together and come together and acknowledge the utopia that is already available to us, if it would be released to people, we could clean up and fix our issues, as well as we would have to do the work of getting rid of our fear, our anger, our victim mentality, which is, by the way, how the elites stay in control, is because you and I choose to be victims and choose to hold on to fear and victim mentality. And if we continue to do that, apparently there's going to be a third shaking of the earth, which, if we follow the first two shakings, will be another world war, which will be really horrible. But the good news is that none of these shakings are definite. We can change the trajectory. That the future hasn't happened. So any prophecy is just looking forward to where the energies are going if things don't change. And things won't change if we don't change. But if we change, we don't have to go through that, which means we can have all of that. We can bring it to us. So then we get to who the fifth element is, and to understand that, we have to understand who Pahana is. So in that link that I gave you, he doesn't talk about Pahana, but he talks about the people of Baha. So Pahana is a person, and I don't know what the syllable what the syllable na means in his language. But according to him, the word Baha means light, spiritual light. So there will be a new religion that will come, either before the third shaking of the world, unless we don't get it together, and then that third religion, that new religion won't come. Or after the third shaking, people will be so bent out of shape and ready to change that they're ready to come together. And then the new religion will come, which will be a religion of light and unity. And the people of Baha are the followers of light, followers of true light. So hold on to that. So Pahana is supposed to bring this new religion, this new understanding. He says a religion that nobody's ever had before. Now, before we go any further than this, I have to point out that if you go online searching Pahana, you're going to have no shortage of European people of European descent claiming to be Pahana. And every single one of them are wrong. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why. So you have to watch all of it to understand. But none of those people. I will tell you that Pahana will not be a European person. A person of European descent will not show up as Pahana, bringing the new religion and bringing the reunification of the clans. Um, so we have to understand first, before we get into that, what the followers of Baha are. According to this, and again, I'm bringing my take on it. So let me once again be clear. I'm not Hopi. I'm not speaking for them. Even they don't know. Here's the thing. They don't seem to know. They're trying to figure it out as well. They have the prophecy, but they don't quite know what all of it means. So they're learning as they go, just like we are. At least that's how it looks to me. I'm perfectly happy to be wrong about that. So Baha is light, spiritual light. Spiritual light is your soul. Anybody who's had an out-of-body experience, anybody who's had a near-death experience, and I'm not talking about the neo-Gnostic victim mentality garbage out there that tells you that false beings of light are trying to trap you and don't go into the light. Never listen to that. Please, if you get anything out of this, drop any of that earth is a soul trap garbage. Please. We are in a delusionary state. We are being manipulated. We are in a mental matrix. That is true. But that's something that can be fixed and has been fixed throughout time with what? Meditation. People who meditate find that their essence is light. The soul is light. One of the things that the Abrahamic tradition got right was that in the beginning, let there be light. Light is the source of everything. When you leave your physical body, in whatever form that may be, you will become light. And according to the Tibetans, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, people don't understand that either. People get wrapped up in that the soul gets pulled back, but they miss the most important part of that, which is as soon as you die, one of the first things that happens is that a light will appear. And that if you don't have any fear, you will merge with that light and you will not need to be reborn. But if you have fear of the light, and what is it that the neo-Gnostics tell you to do? Be afraid of the light. Don't go in the light. If you have fear of the light, you will be reborn. Your fear and your attachments will pull you back into physical manifestation, away from the light. So the people of the light, the people who follow Baha, according to this, my interpretation is, these are people who are following the light of the soul, the true soul. The light of the soul has nothing to do with religion. The term religion, religio, means to bind up with rules. Religion is about rules. You follow rules, 10 commandments, whatever it is. That's why in my book, I say this, the shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life, I say there's only one commandment, and that commandment is very simple. Follow the light of your soul. I didn't use those words, but I could have. Listen to the light of your soul. And the light is joy. Now, I know this from personal experience because when I was 7, I left my body and I traveled out of the atmosphere and I traveled through the darkness of space, and I was magnetically pulled to this light. And I got to this light, and it was a little terrifying at first because I was completely obliterated. But that light was the most orgasmic, blissful experience ever. And if I could go back to that, I would. And at that time, I was a Christian, so I had assumed that that was God. And when I was pulled into that light and became that light, I was saying to myself, I'm home. I'm home. I'm home. And then, of course, I obviously didn't stay there. I came back. So slowly and gently, the light released me, and I started drifting back towards the earth. And I was very sad, and I was saying, no, 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 I don't want to go back there. No. And of course, I did. And when I awoke, being a 7-year-old Christian, I thought I had seen Jesus. And I went and told people for years that I saw Jesus. Until after I walked away from Christianity, I went, well, what about that time? And then I went, oh, wait. That light never said who it was. That light didn't say, I am Jesus. Light didn't say anything. All I knew is that when I merged back into it, I was my authentic, true, complete, original self. And I've since come to the conclusion that that light was in fact my soul, which of course is your soul. So the followers of light are people who are followers of the soul, their own soul, and the soul that is in all things. Because that light in your soul is quantum enfolded infinity. Another message I got when I was meditating, when I first started learning to meditate the 3 ones, which I shared with you just a little while ago on earlier videos. When I was doing that meditation, and for a moment I was like outside of my body, and I could see my meditating body sitting there, and it was in this black void. And then this feeling, this message came to me and said, everything is inside of you. And there were stars all around me, and the feeling, the voice, the whatever it was said, when you look up in the sky at night, you are looking inside yourself. You are everything. Your soul is a point of light that leads to all things. Every single rock, every single bird, every single tree, every single planet, every single star, every single asteroid, every single being that exists on every other planet, every other consciousness that exists on every other level or level of reality, dimension, is you. That is the religion that will come. And so I believe, I didn't hear that, but I imagine that Pahana is the person, the Bahanui or whatever. It sounded it sounded Hawaiian the way he said it, but the people of Baha are the followers of the light of the soul. But Pahana, I don't know what that means. But he is called the elder white brother who will bring peace. Now, the way that the Hopi interpreted that, it sounds like they're saying that a European will come. And they say that Pahana is the elder white brother who will come, and he has, of course, white skin, and he has jet black hair, as I understand it, and he will wear red. And when he comes, he will bring this new religion, which will bring everybody together. So there's no doubt in my mind that Pahana is not a European, because they call him the elder white brother. Europeans are not the older brothers of the Native Americans, because, I mean, when we were all one people, 4 clans, there was no racial distinction. We were all probably Um, the oldest uh, the oldest ethnic group in the world are a few. They're almost gone, but there are a few groups left in Africa, and um, the Bush people of Africa. Their DNA is the oldest, and they don't see themselves as black Africans. Now, a white person would, because white people, anybody who has any skin pigment at all is we see that as a colored person or whatever. But they have their skin color doesn't match really anything. It's not black. It's not white. It's not doesn't look like Asian, and their facial features. It's like a mixture of everything. You can see a little bit of Asian in there. You can see some European. You can see some black African, and they don't see themselves as black African. And I don't know enough about that. It's just a weird little thing that goes on in Africa, that these, the oldest people on the planet, and these are people, their language has like clicks and pops in it. It's really strange, very, very old, not connected to any modern language anyway. So I assume that that's who the first people looked like. Probably looked like those guys. And then they went off in different directions, and then the four races came out of that. So white people are not older than Native Americans. We split apart right around the same time. If you follow the ethnicity, you can find that at one point we were the same people, and they went off towards the east, and we stayed in the west and Western Europe and blah, blah, blah. So it can't be Europeans. It can't be a white European that shows up with this new religion, because we're not the elder brothers of anybody. If anything, white people are the younger brothers of, some Africans, probably. So we're not the elder brothers. So who is the elder brother? And now we get to the question of, why are there only 4 elements and not 5? And what are the 4 elements? 4 elements are air, fire, water, earth. What's the 5th element? Ether. Now, Western magic, I always give them a hard time because, as I say, I only follow practices that have an unbroken condition into prehistory. Modern Western magic is a modern creation that has come about in the past 2,000 years of Europeans trying to come up with an indigenous practice. Druidism, which apparently was a very in-depth, very powerful spiritual, indigenous spiritual practice in Europe, but that's gone. Modern day Druids, they're very powerful people. They have an incredibly wonderful system, but if you talk to them and they're honest, they will say, yeah, we don't know what the original Druids believed. We don't know. Modern New Age other stuff, I don't want to bag on anybody, but it's been made up. It's been made up, and it doesn't mean that there aren't powerful things to it that don't work, but it's been made up. People trying their best to figure it out, coming up with stuff. A mishmash of Norse, Germanic stuff mixed up together with some Celtic words and Celtic things, and and then they call that our original religion, but it's not. Anyway, I got off track here. So, what is the 5th element? The 5th element is ether. So the point about modern Western magicians is they don't know, is ether an element? Or is it the basis of all, energy and et cetera, et cetera? And But it is an element. Ether is, in fact, an element. It's not the basis. The basis is light. And from light comes the 5 elements. Ether is the first manifestation of this. Now, let's stick with ether for a moment, because if you can comprehend what ether is, this will all come together and you'll understand who Pahana is, and you'll understand what the followers of light are. So the thing about ether is that it is manifested. It is a physical manifestation. But of all the 5 elements, it is the least dense, and it has the least manifested limitations. So once you go from earth, then you go air. Air is an actual property. It's a manifested thing. It has limitations. It's a thing you can actually feel on your skin. You can measure it. It's a thing. But you can't measure ether. Even though it is a manifestation of energy into manifestation, in our 4-dimensional world, 3 dimensions plus time, we really can't, it's sort of like dark matter. We can see the effects of it, but we can't measure it. You know, when we do Qigong, which is ether, when we work with that, you can see some things happen. You will have warmth come to your skin. There will be blood flow. Other things will happen, but those are effects. They're not actually Qi. They're not actually the ether element. So the ether element is this element that comes in and out of our 4-dimensional awareness. It's not fully trapped in our 4D awareness like the other 4 elements are. The other 4 elements are trapped in this 4D. But ether isn't. It comes and goes. Even though it is manifested, it is the closest we get to pure spirit, which is why modern Western magicians can't figure out whether they should call it ether or whether they should call it spirit. So they're right about that. They're being good, fire people who are very intellectual. They're trying to reduce it down to its, scientifically observable form, and you can't do that with ether. So that's why they get confused. No, it's an element. No, it's not an element. It's the energy. It's spirit. It's not true. It's not matter. They don't realize that there's this. There's pure infinity where everything comes from, and then there are these other less dense dimensions that aren't part of our dimension. And it is in these other higher dimensions that ether is the dominant element, the dominant force, the spirit. So the people of Baha are the followers of ether. This is the way I see it. And so that must mean that the people who are these followers of spirit, these followers of light, they must be from another dimension. Because they're not one of the denser elements. And they are our older siblings. It means they came before us. They existed before we did. They're older than we are. So maybe you guess where I'm going with this. I don't think Pahana is human. I think Pahana and the people of Baha are extremely highly evolved people who have mastered the powers of meditation, which allow them the ability to come in and out of 4D, go back to 5D and beyond. And so that leads us down to we're waiting for Pahana to show up. And when Pahana shows up, he's going to bring a new religion with him that has never been seen on the earth. It's a new religion that nobody has ever had before. Which means he's going to bring an understanding of reality that no human has ever had before. His understanding of reality will literally blow everybody's mind because they can't comprehend it. Because we have evolved, human beings have evolved from physical 4D. We haven't evolved beyond that. How can we understand something we've never experienced? Explain to a colorblind person the colors of the rainbow. You can talk about it all day long, but they have no way of knowing. They can't see those colors. They don't know what it is. So as it turns out, with my latest new obsession, as it turns out, these people are not from Earth, obviously. And what you see in these three pictures, these are reported to be, by the way, these pictures were taken and people didn't see these. There was either a light, they were taking a picture of a light, or they had, on the far right, somebody had an instinct that they should take a picture in just complete emptiness. There was nothing there. The person took the picture, and the being on the right is what showed up in the picture. In each one of these, the first two, there are beams of light that are containing these people. These extraterrestrials. And look at the one on the left. I mean, look at how big his head is. I don't even know what to make of that. The guy on the right is wearing some sort of, the guy in the middle seems to be wearing some sort of, helmet that he's using to create his manifestation. And the guy on the right is pure energy. These are the followers of light. And I personally don't know any other scenario that could bring about the unity of this planet if we don't do it ourselves, which we can do. We can do that because the people who have, they don't have this technology, by the way. There's no human that can do what these guys are doing. Because these guys actually are using the power, their meditative power, along with their technology to be able to accomplish these things. Human beings don't have that ability yet. They have some understanding that they can use psychic power, but it's, sort of like the dark, the dark side of the force. They can only go so far with it. Because in order to truly understand where this technology of thought and intention goes, they have to tap into the universal understanding of love, of unconditional love, of unity, that we live in a quantum field, that there is no separation. The dark force people are trying to control you. They get as much power as they can, and they try and use that in order to continue separation. In their minds, they hope that they can get all technology, spiritual or otherwise, and use that to make themselves gods so that they can lord themselves over you, all the while not realizing that there is no God ruling anything. That if there is a God that rules anything, it is the eternal quantum light energy that is in equal measure in every conscious being. That includes humans. And that's what These guys know. These guys know that human beings have within them the same powers that they have. We just haven't woken up to it yet. And when we do, then the dark force people will completely lose their control. They will cease to be an issue. And so either that's going to come through a third shaking of the world, because we choose to be victims and be controlled and feel sorry for ourselves and believe in a soul trap, or believe in the devil, or believe in hell, or believe in judgment or damnation, or that karma is, a bad thing, which it's not. As long as we continue to indulge in feeling isolated, alone, victimized, they will have power. And then Pahana will have to show up in order for us to have that awakening. Or we can do it ourselves. Now these guys are waiting for your phone call. They're waiting by the phone for you to call them, literally. And that's what the CE5 protocols are all about. So who is Pahana? Pahana is the elder white brother. Now, the reason I say that, they call him the white brother, I don't see anybody in this. I could be wrong, but I have heard that among the many extraterrestrial interdimensional people, people who are highly spiritually evolved and live in these multi-dimensions, which is, as you know, when you see an ET craft, what is the first thing people say? Oh, there's a light in the sky. Lights. Again, the light is what fuels, and again, look at all these guys. Light is what fuels their ability to do whatever they do, the followers of light. So what was I saying? So Pahana is supposed to be a white person with jet black hair. Now I recently was listening to Dr. Stephen Greer, who on one of his many, many things that he talks about aliens, and he talked about an extraterrestrial that was, I don't know how he got there. I assume he just sort of beamed in. But an extraterrestrial came into his room next to his bed, and he described him as having pale white skin, jet black hair, and deep blue eyes. Not like this white. This is, my skin isn't even white. I got red skin because the sun out here. By the way, Florida is definitely the hottest place on the earth. I don't think it gets hotter anywhere. When it's 95 degrees and 90% humidity, you can't get any hotter than that. I don't think. Anyway, so I've got red skin. So there, and even when I'm out of the sun, I don't have pure white skin. No human has pure white skin. So Pahana is something else. And I'm also not the older brother of Native Americans. They're my siblings. White people, black people, red people, yellow people. We're siblings. We're the same age. We all come from the same clan, which is about 150,000 years old. So, have I gone off the deep end? The answer to that question is yes. Not only have I gone off the deep end, I dug a tunnel in the deep end and I kept going. I had no idea that I would ever end up this far out of the box. So I'm happy to take any questions. This is, as always, a question and answer. If you have a question, write the word question in all caps and then ask your question. And if you have any feelings, then write your feelings, and anything else, more than likely I will psychoanalyze you. Sorry, that's just what I do. So let's take a look and see who's here. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. He showed up first. He is one of my certified astrologers. Please go check out his website, vincent.thunderwizard.com. He's also Gebo the Shaman on YouTube. He's got a lot of great services there. Thundra is also one of my astrologers, and you can check her out at Thundra, THUNDRA.thunderwizard.com, and she also has a bunch of services that she can offer you. All right, so Marion Eisenberg, question. Could ETs be the same beings our ancestors saw as fairy folk? That's one of the questions I am thinking about, and ETs are not trolls, they're not giants, they're not dwarves, they're not humans, they're not gods, they're not Vanir. Kind of leaves only one, which is the elves. So the elves would be in the same neighborhood as the fairy folk. Same idea. Fairies are often seen as orbs. Some of the, depending on who you talk to, elves are different. Elves are not the Keebler elves that live in trees and make cookies. That's not elves. They don't have pointy shoes and pointy hats. They are the elves, as it turns out, that the original root word for elf is shining one. So the elves are what? The shining ones, the beings of light. So I think that they may have been here this whole time, and I think they may have been the guardians and the mentors of human beings, because that's what elves are. The bodhisattvas are the same thing. They're the mentors of human beings. They appear in whatever form they need to, and there's some places in Iceland where elves supposedly live in the rocks. And if you haven't been invited, you just see this big boulder or this big rock. But if the elf decides to invite you in, all of a sudden it becomes a house, and they invite you in for pancakes and coffee. And people have said they went over to some guy's house and had pancakes and coffee, and turned around and looked, and the house was gone, and there was a big boulder. As I think about it, I had an experience like that, which I'm not prepared to share about because it's too close, too personal, but I saw that. I was up in the mountains, and there was some weird energy coming from this one place, and I saw this stone house. It looked like an old sort of stone house, and a bunch of strange things happened, and when I went back, the house wasn't there, an oak tree was there. It's like, how did that oak tree, it was. So do I think that they're the fairy folk? Do I think that they're the elves? I think very possibly that the elves may be trans-dimensional extraterrestrials. Zeralath, honest feeling. I loved the 2 weeks I worked with horses. However, the reptilian offer forced my hand. It was the last new job I needed to quit. Okay. I'm not quite sure I understand that feeling, but I understand. You hated quitting that job. I get you. I'm not on the Gulf side, Creative Virgo, so no, I wouldn't have caught that. I did get some surfing in though. Creative Virgo 12, question, have you heard of neutrinos? I feel that is one, neutrinos, so I don't know what you're talking about. Creative Virgo question, when speaking of ether as the fifth element, if you ever heard of or okay, so that's not a question. Well, you kind of threw the question in at the end. But again, I've never heard of it, so I can't talk about something I don't know. Question, Zerleth, could you talk about the 5 states of matter in correspondence to the 5 elements? I have many times. And I'm assuming you're not um, subscribed yet to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. I believe that I explained that very very clearly. So yeah, there's 5 states. They're not elements. That's a incorrect word. The Chinese use a good word. They call them phases, and it means the 5 ways that energy phases and shifts, and it expands. So everything in the universe that is physically manifested, is either expanding, contracting, rising, falling, or centering. Those are the 5 elements. Those are the 5 phases. So could you talk about the 5 states of matter in correspondence to the 5 elements? I just did. Second question, could the 5th race be a spirit who cycles through the 4? And I think that's exactly what I said. Zerlath, okay, that's not a question. All right. So I don't see any more questions. Are we done with the questions? So I have, the CE5 protocols. The only thing that it requires that isn't, sort of fixed in stone is what you do to tap into the infinite quantum field. That awareness that you are everything, where you get out of your 4D focused mind and you allow yourself to enter into that state where you transcend. So what works for me is I do some energy work, whether it's qigong or whether it's what I teach you here, any of the the different levels that I teach there. What I do is this. I do the Mao Shan. I'll do some of that until I really feel like I'm sort of in and out of this dimension. And then I'll go and I'll do the holding of the 3 ones meditation, which I taught you in a video not too long ago. And then I do the vectoring protocol. And that's what works for me. So if you're like me, I offer that to you because for me, I'm not able to get into that state just by sort of closing my eyes. I can't do that. I need help. And so for me, this is what does it, this Mao Shan energy. So I offer that to you, and I do recommend and invite people to look into CE5 protocols. CE5 protocols. Go look those up. And if you haven't already, watch Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind or any of the stuff by Stephen Greer. Be careful of the other garbage. I mean, there's so much garbage out there about extraterrestrials. Bear in mind that since before World War II, there has been a false flag operation going on, which has been designed from the beginning to fill you with misinformation and fear about extraterrestrials. Anything having to do with violence. Like, for instance, I was just seeing on one of the CE5 Facebook groups, some people went out to go try and connect to what's called the tall whites. According to some guy who wrote a book and makes money going out speaking about it, he says that there is, in the United States, there's some military facility where these aliens called the tall whites live, but they're very violent, and there's inconsistencies, and so people went out there to try and connect with that. That's all nonsense. Anything that you hear having to do with abductions, those are faked. They're using the very powerful technology and even psychic technology um, in order to put people into a hypnagogic state where they can't move and fill their mind with pictures and all of that stuff. So everything you hear about grays and abductions, those are all faked by humans. Because the real extraterrestrial experience is a spiritual one. And anybody who has an experience with real extraterrestrials, for them it will be a spiritual experience. It might be mind-blowing. It might even be initially frightening because it's so different. But that fear goes away very quickly. Whereas a human-created alien event will have, the fear will deepen into terror and trauma. And so you got to be careful. There's, there are supposed researchers out there that are either being lied to and they're giving you information from supposed whistleblowers. And then there's so-called whistleblowers out there who are giving completely false information. And it's all designed to give you a misunderstanding. Anything you hear about, like there's a war between good aliens and bad aliens, all of that is all false flag human nonsense. Based on my research and my very little experience, these are beings that have achieved, the level that they've achieved has been as a direct result of thousands, if not millions of years of spiritual practice. That this is the end result for everybody, including humans, if we survive. The end result for humans is to be beings of light as well, because we have now evolved. The human species has evolved to where we can begin shifting into other dimensions. And at this time, it won't be, stories of spiritual masters, that we deify, like the Buddha. There won't be some strange guy, one in a billion who pull it off. It's going to be every single person on the planet eventually will be born with this ability. It's now time for us to evolve. And so I believe this is again why the Hopi prophecy says he's going to bring Pahana, the being of light, but he's our elder brother. He's not a god, he's a person, not necessarily an earth human, but a person. He's going to bring a religion that nobody's ever seen or heard of before. And it will be a religion of light. And that religion will bring unity. And by religion, we mean a concept. This is why I was so hyped up about June 4th. Like, if everybody on Earth did CE5 protocols and all these, ships showed up and we had contact with extraterrestrials, our understanding of reality would completely be destroyed and it would create a new world. And that's all it takes. Once humans see reality for what it is, then all of this nonsense will go away. And it'll shift into who knows what. But it won't be what we've had, for sure. Zerlath, Immortal Qigong Testimony. I can see the energy field through the back of my eyelids. It felt like how Daredevil sees blind. You mean the TV show, Daredevil. He's talking about the awakening the Immortals Qigong. So if you're new to the channel and you want to tap into this most powerful of energy practices that I teach, the unified energy system of Kundalini, Chi, and lightning energy of the heart, which has never been taught publicly before. If you want to try that out, you can go onto my channel and go to the playlists and watch the Awakening Immortals Qigong, practice it, and then you can try out for yourself and see if that energy works for you. Zerlath question: have you followed any of George Knapp's work on UFOs? So again, I don't know who that is, and no. As so far, I'm finding that 90% of things about UFOs is nonsense. About 90% of it, what they're talking about is human false UFOs. I've seen close to nothing. But what's interesting is that I'm finding that there is a hidden undercurrent of people who have had personal interactions with actual extraterrestrials, and every single one of them talks about it as a spiritual experience. And I mean, two people that I know have said, I've never told anybody this, and then they share, no, three people, because when I started talking about it. So if with the small amount of people that I know, just out of nowhere, three people say, you know what, I never told anybody this, and they start talking about how they have had these other dimensional experiences with extraterrestrials, and it's always of a spiritual nature, and it's always an empowering thing that is so beyond this 4D world that they can't even talk about it because nobody would even understand. That's telling me what the real extraterrestrial experience is. George Knapp is who broke Bob Lazar. I don't know what you mean by broke, but again, when you're dealing with all that, I like what Bob Lazar has to say, but even Bob Lazar's technology isn't necessarily extraterrestrial. So I may have been wrong if I was saying that Bob Lazar got all of his information from retrieved, reverse engineered extraterrestrial. It may not have been, because the truth is that even before World War II was over, German scientists and many others, by the way, had started uncovering how to create anti-gravitational propulsion without having reverse engineered it. So the physics at that time and now is still there. So Bob Lazar may not have gotten his info from reverse engineered alien technology. We still, because human beings, we do have that ability as well. Like the extraterrestrials, I mean, somebody came up with it, started learning this stuff on their own, which means that it's a truth within the physics of reality. So, any gifted physics scientist is at some point going to stumble on the truth. So I'm just saying, again, all that stuff, my feeling is about 90% of that stuff is complete nonsense. So anyway. All right. No other questions? So I guess we're done. Well, all right. So that's it, guys. The bottom line is, as I said yesterday, what should be the most important thing in your life should be meditation. That should be the most important focus of your life. Learning to access your meditative mind using whatever technology, whatever teaching, whatever practice you can. And for me, if you're like me, I want to find the most powerful, the quickest way to that. And so for me, that's the Maoshan Lightning Center Qigong, the lightning Qigong that I've been teaching you guys, and the other Maoshan practices. All right. That's it. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Be good to yourselves. Remember that you are infinity enfolded into a human being.